welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on Wednesday, April the 23rd in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC. I'd like to thank our great volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes it all happen. The first part of Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, so we'll start off. My new mantra is don't believe the media, don't trust the media, etc. But keep that in mind while you're watching this show. So, the great state of Vermont. This is, I can't even remember where I got this, but I just put together a few paragraphs from it. Last week, Vermont's Senate voted in favor of requiring foods containing genetically modified organisms to be labeled. I'll just say that again. Last week, Vermont's Senate voted to require that foods containing genetically modified organisms be labeled. This could be the law by next week if it just has to go through something. We are saying that people have a right to know what's in their food, Senate President John Campbell told the Burlington Free Press. The Vermont law would require foods containing GMOs to be labeled by July 1st, 2016. And once that happens, it seems that both Connecticut and Maine, which have already passed similar laws, may join. State officials are anticipating that food manufacturers or others in the biotech industry will sue the state. We expect that Monsanto will sue the state of Vermont in order to prevent enactment of Bill H-112, said Ron Cummins, National Director of the Organic Consumers Association. We also expect that Monsanto will lose and the law will go into effect on schedule on July 1st, 2016. Opponents of labeling laws, like the Grocery Manufacturers Association, are pushing for laws at the federal level that could override state laws, like the one in Vermont. So, to me, this is a huge story, and we can ask ourselves, why is this not even mentioned anywhere in the corporate media? Do you see the great danger of the corporations controlling the media and the great power it has to keep these important truths that we all should be fighting for completely out of our minds? We don't even think about them. If I wouldn't have been sent this by a friend, I wouldn't even know. And what's the news this week in the corporate media? It's the young man in the wheel well who went on an airplane to Hawaii or something. There were murders in Calgary. There were the Air Canada baggage handlers that dropped some bags. There was the ferry sinking in South Korea. Lots of sports, lots of just nonsense and trash throughout the media. But this important story they don't even mention.
Well, it's not a real surprise there. But the thing that's of interest is what the manufacturers said, that they're going to go to the federal government, the U.S. federal government, a place where you could never get a law passed in a million years if it had anything to do with protecting the public. But now that it's to protect the manufacturers, I think they'll all spring into action and have something whipped up in no time.
It'll be interesting to
try to, do an end run around what they're doing in Vermont.
So people just Google, the story's out there somewhere. Google, Vermont passes law on, genetically modified foods.
Yeah.
Now you got more than one or two things that you want to talk about, so let's go.
Well, I think we've got to talk a little bit more about good news, don't we, Jack? There's so many good things that are happening. This is a really great magazine. It's a CCPA Monitor. That's the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives magazine. Has no advertising, full of articles from page 1 to page 23, all very well written and coming from a social democratic perspective. so one can expect certain biases, but more or less very truthful and an excellent magazine. And one thing they do have, which I like, is they have a good news page. So I'll just touch on a couple of things that are good. The city of Hamilton, Ontario, pressed by the city's chapter of the Council of Canadians, recently passed an anti-fracking resolution. The resolution is an important first step in defending municipalities from fracking, laying the groundwork for bylaws and zoning protection, and sending a clear message to all levels of government. So
Why isn't that front page news? I mean, I would like to know about stuff like that.
this is important because you'll see how laws work, and you'll often see something happen at a city level or municipal level that will percolate and will work its way into the provincial and the federal laws. You know, when you talk about Monsanto, years ago Monsanto sued the city Hudson, Quebec for
right.
spraying cosmetic pesticides. They won that case, and now all municipalities in Canada have the right to ban cosmetic
And that was another
pesticides.
story that was hugely important and it never got a mention in the media.
Yeah.
The town of Hudson, Quebec, years
That's
ago, a couple of decades ago probably, passed a law that said you couldn't spray poisons, pesticides, for cosmetic purposes.
Yeah.
And they were taken, I think, to the Supreme Court of Canada by the industry, the poison industry.
Yeah.
And Hudson won.
The Sierra Legal Defense Fund took up their case, and there's a lot of big supporters. It costs millions of dollars
But
to
to
fight
me, the
that.
point is that none of us were ever told this story. The media, that's the media's job, is to
But
make
we're all
sure we
benefiting,
don't
you
know.
see.
And we're benefiting.
And
yes.
like the city opposing fracking and taking that battle on, municipalities can pass bylaws as long as they don't contravene provincial laws. And there's a way for the citizens to get a little control. We'll just mention one more here. Let's see. Well, the one that caught my eye here is the pigs crates are now banned. Now, when they breed sows, they basically put the animal in a cage that she cannot turn around. She's in a cage just slightly bigger than her body, and these are huge animals, and they have to stay that way during their whole pregnancy. It's very, very cruel. So yeah, I'll just read the first paragraph on it because it's so hard to believe. But thanks to 37,000 Care2 members taking action, that's an online petition group, more than 1 million pregnant pigs on Canadian farms will no longer have to spend their lives confined in crates so small they can't even turn around. After the Care2 petition demanded prompt action to help mother pigs, Canada's National Farm Animal Care Council and the Canadian Pork Council have decreed new regulations that ban the continuous confinement of sows. So for us meat eaters, it's always a good reason to eat less meat. But if you really think about the way these animals are being treated, and this is another great thing that happened. It was just an online petition. These several organizations are doing that now, and they're very effective, very, very fast off the mark when an issue
You know what?
comes
There
up.
might be more to that story because I know that battle's been fought for many, many years.
Yeah.
It could be, and I just think I heard something about this, that Europe was passing regulations, maybe saying that certain practices will be considered inhumane, and if you're doing them, we won't
Yes.
take your, maybe something like that.
Usually there's something else behind it. But anyway, I just want to say that this is a fantastic magazine. It takes descriptions only, and there's no advertising. Very, very well thought out, and very informative articles in that magazine.
Yeah, and plus they have some good jokes too. They have a joke page. I agree. And if you want to do something, I mean, my only complaint about the CCPA monitor is that it's not out there more. They have some great stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's very informative, well written by people who know economic and social and political issues. But it's just not seen by enough people. So if anybody wants, you can get a subscription, but I just wish the CCPA.
They're growing very quickly, Jack.
Okay.
And they are getting more and more coverage all the time. So this is the 200th edition that this month's. So they are just hitting their stride, and I think more and more people are looking to not only this publication but others that are not commercially oriented, that don't rely on advertising. As soon as you have to start relying on advertising, you got to make those advertisers happy, and where that all goes.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important.
So it's up to us then to, this is what I think is important. Everybody should be taking out subscriptions to different magazines.
Yeah.
We have to put some money into it to help build these kinds of media.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda.
Well, this just last week while we were taping our show, there was a lot of drama that happened up in Fort Nelson, where the industry, the oil and gas industry, First Nations, and the provincial government were meeting, trying to hash out a strategy and how they're going to get all these pipelines built. And just before that, the Liberal government had passed a law through an order of council saying that basically the natural gas was going to be exempt from environmental inspections and regulations. And when they got into the meeting with the First Nations people, the First Nations people basically kicked them out of the room. They drummed them out of the room. The drummers were all there, and it's taped. You can see it online. It's really great. And following that meeting, the government backed right down, changed their mind, and now they're back to that we have environmental regulations. So that's another good story. Yeah. That they realize, oh my gosh, they're not going to be able to pull this one off. I find it so remarkable, and this is what I'll just read this one quote here. In a stunningly stupid move, the province has effectively declared war on all BC First Nations and jeopardized all LNG discussions throughout the entire province of BC, Chief Stuart Phillip of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs said. So, that's pretty plain language, and I think they found out, oh, right, and they backed down.
So who was at the meeting?
Well, it was the provincial government,
okay,
and the oil and gas industry,
okay,
and First Nations people.
Well, how come those three groups get to go to the meeting, but the people of BC have no representative there,
they
the
may
rest
have.
of us?
I don't know, but those three groups were there for sure.
I don't think,
yeah.
But who represents the people of BC? Does anybody think that Christy Clark represents the people of BC?
Well, apparently, you forgot that, yeah, in fact they do. They are our government, and they were there acting on our behalf.
They seem to work directly for the oil and gas industry. Christy Clark's government seems to be quite willing to poison people anywhere and everywhere with fracking.
Yeah.
Why? I don't. What kind of a government is that?
Well, it's not a government that's has any, is not engaged in reality. The whole.
But they are the reality.
The whole campaign that Christy Clark ran on, creating jobs and saying yes to the economy, or whatever she said about 1 million times, and this LNG development. But there's no economist in the world will tell you it's a good deal financially. As a matter of fact, it's really a catastrophe, and environmentally it's just as bad or worse. Usually you'll see something bad for the environment. It takes you a few years to catch up to you. Maybe the tar sands might be an example. It was pretty bad for the environment, but now we're really seeing it. Whereas this liquefied natural gas, right out of the gates, as soon as they start fracking, huge environmental costs. And there's just no money to be made there. So I think what they're planning on is spending billions of our dollars, taxpayers' dollars, on developing all this infrastructure to give this gas away. Just like they've given away our hydroelectric, given away our coal,
our forests.
And it's funny. Now, this is the bad news part of the show, is these guys are still in power. And And of course, you have the NDP that were willing to give it all away too, but they seemingly couldn't get elected on that. So that's the bad news part of the show is we got to change that.
But I think, from my point of view, what you were saying was the heart of the problem, which is that our governments don't work for us. They don't care about us. We are not, and when I say we, I mean the people of BC, from what I can see.
Yeah.
I mean, they're attacking the public school system now.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the same. Not now. They've been doing it for 20 years.
Well, I spent quite a bit of time trying to get to see some of these folks, and honestly, I think I could probably go to Russia and see the president of Russia more easily than I could get to see the minister of the environment. Like, it's a joke. They don't talk to citizens. You can't get there. If you write a letter, you have no idea where that letter went. You get a form letter back. You have no idea. There's no. They're just living down there, or living down there, but they're running the government at the legislature, but it is just completely out of touch with the people. It's just totally removed, and I think we have to get that back. We have to. And I believe in staying engaged, no matter how frustrating it is. I think a lot of times some of those folks count on engaged citizens and activists to give up, or just to be so frustrated.
And to me, if we're going to get engaged, I think we've got to shift part of our focus, because we've got to get to. We've got to start to focus on the heart of the matter. The corporations know this.
Yeah.
The corporations know how important media is. So they've bought it all, and they own it all, and they control it all. We've got to have our own media, or we're going to keep losing. I just don't see any way around that. And it's up to you people who are watching this, and all of us right across Canada, to put some of our focus on building media. The people who want to do the media are out there. They just need to hook up with some people who can give them some money, and not only money, but follow them and help them build. Yeah.
And to be reliable, I bump into people when I'm at work in stores, and people saying they're watching the show and sort of relying on getting some information, and I find that kind of a burden to carry. Making sure that we're staying somewhat factual and trying to give people some tidbits that they can carry around in their lives to help them make decisions. And you're right. If you look into the regular corporate media, there's so much spin on everything that you really don't know what the heck you're reading anymore. You really can't trust almost a word.
Well, I mentioned that they're shutting. They're just attacking. They keep attacking public education now. We're always told that the reason is there's no money. There's not enough money for public education, so schools have to close. And there was a story in the Globe and Mail a few days ago that Vancouver is looking at shutting down. I think it's their entire elementary strings and choir, something like that. A large part of the elementary school music program. But nowhere in the article, and never is it ever mentioned, that the only reason there's no money is that the Liberals have given tax cuts to the 1% and the corporations, which are costing the provincial treasury we all got something. They just got the most. The cost is $7 billion a year.
Yeah.
So the people at the top are making out like we are starving our public school system to give our money to the 1%.
Oh, it's wild, Jack. I was at a meeting last night. Elizabeth Bay spoke briefly, and you talk about the United States, U.S. government giving it all to the corporations. The Canadian corporate tax rate is 1/2 of the Americans.
Yeah, we're the lowest.
It's got to a place where it's so absurd to think. Now the teachers are trying and fighting right now. The teachers are just entering into job action and possibly a full-on strike. And if you look at the situation for those teachers, and what they've been battling for.
But they'll get killed if there's a strike. Like, look
Yeah.
at, here's a story in the Globe and Mail today. I don't know if you can get it, but it says, teachers' job action affects playtime. I mean, and I was listening to CKNW, Vancouver's biggest radio station. Just
Yeah.
a couple of days ago, one of the hosts gave a rant about the teachers. I mean, it was, you know, it was horrifying.
It's ridiculous. The teachers are the lowest paid in Canada. They have the largest class sizes. I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, is all the rest of Canada wrong, and British Columbia somehow figured
But the
this out?
school, you know, Jimmy Pattison is building a new auto dealership down on the corner of Douglas and Finlayson. Take a look at that. It's like a palace.
Yeah.
But our schools, no money. I just wanted to mention combat dolphins.
Oh.
We just got this story from one of the crew here, and it seems that the U.S. is just deploying combat dolphins either in the Mediterranean or in the Black Sea. I don't know, to get at the Russian Navy or something. Combat dolphins. It's, you know, where does it stop? Where do these people stop?
Well, I mean, if they can make a weapon out of it, they'll do it. You know, they're obsessed by it. But Russia's not Iraq or Syria or Libya. Russia is a very powerful country. It has a huge military, has a lot of interests in the region and around Ukraine. It's not the same game at all. Basically the fabrication of the West and the Western corporate media doesn't quite work the same way there. They don't care. The very, very powerful right-wing forces are an action in Ukraine, and they're trying to rob a lot of citizens' rights there.
Walter, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Jack.
Thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to the second segment of Citizens Forum. Our guest in this segment is Mehdi Najari. Mehdi is a lapsed member of the NDP, and we're going to be talking about the NDP, and we're going to start off with the leadership race.
There is a problem with the current leadership race that we supposedly have, and that the problem is that there is nobody is participating. There is only one declared candidate, and that is not acceptable for a party, for a democratic party, for the new democratic party. It's not acceptable that there is nobody want to run. And there is, Jack, there is reason for why people are not running. First of all, they put a high bar of an entry to the race, and by asking for $25,000 to enter the race, and that is plus the other expenses that one person may have.
I would say that the $25,000 bar is a disgrace because it locks out everybody who doesn't have that kind of money.
We have to see there is a difference between a corporate party and a party that's supposed to represent working class people. In this province, the median average income for a single income earner is about $27,000 a year. How can a person give $25,000 to enter a race for his party? So they are practically preventing anybody, any working class person, any ordinary citizens to participate. You either have to have big pockets or have a big, good relationship with corporations to get money from them. And it's not possible.
Now, another thing you have to do to enter the race is get about 200 signatures. And something like signatures is, I think, a good idea. You should be able to show you have some support.
Yes, but there is a problem with that too. It's actually now it's 250 signature.
Yeah.
They divided the province to 8 regions. You have to get 10 signature from every region, see at least 6. So you need to know people.
Yeah.
And they are not providing you with the list of the membership.
You mean you can't send out?
No. So how do you know people, for example, if I want to enter the leadership in Victoria, how do I know people in Fort St. John? Who is the member of the party in order to approach them to get their signature?
Yes. And of course, if you could send out an email to people and say, I want to enter the race, here's my thinking, all I need is signatures, people would sign.
That's what happened in 2003. I entered the race because I was sitting at home in the summer afternoon, no intention to participate in leadership race. Suddenly I'm hearing on CBC radio that there are few already declared candidates having a debate in city of Abbotsford. And in that debate, the main message of all candidates was we have to reduce our expectation. So we shouldn't expect much from the NDP if NDP get elected. And I thought that's not a good message for people of this province. The resources of the province belongs to the people of the province, and we should raise our expectation. So I entered the race. They tried to prevent the establishment and the controllers within the party, but they were not successful. We got the number of signatures, and at that time the entry fee was $2,500. So it was possible for ordinary citizens to participate. So I entered, and after the first debate in city of Vancouver, they never again talk about we have to reduce our expectation, because I was there to say that's not right. And so
what was the response from the audience?
The audience were clapping. Everywhere I went, talking about what the NDP should be, a party of the progressive party to work for the people interest, not corporate interest. The people were responding very well. But right now, they are preventing ordinary citizens to participate. It's become an exclusive club of few people that control NDP. And we had a disastrous election a few months ago, last year actually, and there is no explanation to people what's happened during that election. How could we go so bad, the election go so bad for NDP? They were telling us that NDP is ahead in the poll, and that was a false. That was a big lie. In fact, some polls that were not shared with the people, and the polls that conducted by Liberal Party clearly were showing right at a month before the writ was dropped in March 22nd, their polls and other polls showed that they were only 5 points behind NDP, not the 20 points, not the 15 points. Those polls that were given to the media for free were defective polls. It designed to deceive us, and it deceived people. The polls that the Liberal Party were taking within their own campaign were accurate and clearly show that after the debate, they pick up more support because of the bad optics in the debate of Mr. Dix. Not the Kinder Morgan, but the debate was the crucial factor to increase the vote for the Liberals. And the campaign, the lackluster campaign, the stupid campaign of not criticizing the 13 years policies of the Liberal Party that devastated our province, their economic policy that made people have less and increase the level of the poverty in the province. They didn't criticize none of those things. And also their campaign manager looks like he was there to sabotage the campaign. Everything he did was wrong. Mr. Brian Topp was brought from Toronto here, and he really, in my opinion, sabotaged the campaign, and there are many evidence to show that. But what's happened after the campaign, Mr. Dix, in the first response to the campaign, he sent a message out, and he said that he is going to have a comprehensive review of the election. So he set up a panel within NDP to look at the election, and he said it must address the strategy and tactics we employed in this election. So the panel came in November. They came with the report. And we see in that report, the first terms of reference, again, is evaluating the 2013 campaign with view to determining the reason for loss, including a review of and assessment of the strategy and tactics of BC NDP 2013 campaign.
Okay, so they were going to look at what happened.
Yeah. And then in the same page, they are saying, this is, I quote, while the provincial office and staff were extremely supportive through all of our works, a number of documents, including the campaign strategy, were not available. And others, such as polling and focus group reports, arrived late and could not be reviewed. So they did not provide the information to their own panel.
Who didn't provide the information?
The party. Mr. Dix and the party establishment did not provide their own panel to look at those documents, to give a report to the party and to the people of British Columbia what went wrong. And everybody covered this fact up. I am asking you, which one of these present MLAs stand up and say, this is not right? Why the party did not provide his own review panel the document they needed to fulfill their terms of reference?
It's absolutely crazy.
It's absolutely incredible. None of the current MLA said a word, including Mr. John Horgan. I think John Horgan, by not saying anything about this report and not objecting to the party, he covered, with his silence, he participated in the cover-up. And so he disqualified himself to be the future leader of the party by covering up.
So there's nobody in the race.
No, I mean, I am saying morally he is disqualified, but we don't have business with morals here. They are going to continue to participate in their campaign and become the leader. He's most likely the future leader of NDP that participated in cover-up.
And can I add, where's the media in
Exactly. This is I know you like to talk about the media all the time. I should maybe show you something about Globe and Mail. Here is Globe and Mail in October 16, 2012. What are they saying? Adrian Dix welcome repositioning for NDP in BC. And in that, they tell us that, I quote, but what he has done is inject a new level of civility into provincial political culture. He has refused to respond in kind to attack ads portraying him as a risky Dix that hearken to the last decade of 1990s and that make Mr. Dix looks more, not less, of a leader. So they are supporting him not to be positive. The Globe and Mail. And also they are praising him for Mr. Dix supporters will clearly have great expectation of renewed social activism after 12 years in political wilderness. The change of the next premier, the challenge of next premier will be to manage those aspirations in an era of fiscal restraint, plunging gas revenue and 1.14 billion deficit. So they are saying that the challenge of the new leader is to reduce expectation of its supporters.
And you know,
but the report of the NDP saying one of the party was more interested to reduce the expectation of its own supporters than to fight the campaign against the Liberals. That is one of the problems with their campaign was.
You mean the report says this?
Yes.
The report says that the NDP was more interested in lowering
lowering the expectation of their supporters. It's right there on page fifth of this report. Everybody can read it. And then what did Globe and Mail did? So they are treating him as a future premier of the province, and he's wonderful by not responding negatively and being positive. But right 4 days before the election, the same Globe and Mail write an editorial, and what is the title? Just 4 days before the election day. They are endorsing the Liberals and saying why the NDP, the headlines of the editorial is why the NDP are too risky a choice for British Columbia. So,
wow.
So they are calling him risky, the same thing that they were saying he should not respond to risky dicks in October, few months before. This is how the corporate organs, the Globe and Mail is corporate media, corporate voice, yeah. big business voice in this country. This is how they manipulate. They constantly manipulating. The reason and the unfortunate thing is that people don't know what's really happened here. What's happened is that the money from Alberta oil and gas industry poured into the coffers of Christy Clark campaign. They send their tricksters and their communication people to Christy Clark to help her to get elected. For example, a gentleman by the name of Stephen Carter. He was the chief of staff of the premier of Alison Redford. He left the government in summer of 2012, joined Hill and Knowlton, the trickster company that public relationship company. And then in October, in the convention, October 2012, in Liberal convention, behind closed door, give a speech to the Liberal Party saying how they can use, what kind of trick they can use to defeat NDP. On the other hand, Mr. Brad Levine, that worked for NDP, leave NDP, and in October or November of 2012 joined Hill and Knowlton. And Brad Levine, at the same time that working for Hill and Knowlton, joined the campaign management of NDP. So we have, and besides in Liberal campaign, there are other Hill and Knowlton people that working for Christy Clark campaign. And besides all of these, in early February of 2013, just 2 months before the election campaign started, Brian Tubb, the NDP campaign manager, joined Ken Bosanquet, which was a vice president of Hill and Knowlton, and after that he joined become the chief of staff for Christy Clark, and then he left. And a guy by the name of Don Guy, they form a company, public relation company. Don Guy worked in the campaign office, war room of the Liberal Party. And so they are working in both campaigns. I believe Hill and Knowlton played a crucial role. Hill and Knowlton made their money from the oil and gas, from Enbridge and other oil and gas company. They sent their agents to both campaign and control campaign, and they took it.
Why did they want the NDP to lose? Because the NDP was going to give them, and we've only got a minute left, but the NDP was going to give them everything anyways.
And NDP was not good enough. They want these pipelines to go ahead, and the Liberal Party positioned themselves that they are going to give it to them. And that was why we defeated. But right now, the problem is that the people have no choice in this province. NDP is not really a choice. They have been giving, they have been carrying the can for big corporations. We don't have any party that representing ordinary citizens in this province. Right?
Well, that's for sure. Mehdi Dajari, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
And thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to segment 3 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Wednesday, April the 22nd in the Memorial Arena in Victoria. I want to thank again our great volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes it all happen. Our guest this segment is Rick Havegood. And Rick, we always talk about issues surrounding democracy, and you wanted to start off with Earth Day.
Yeah, Earth Day. Actually, a friend of ours, Brian Gordon, sent me this article today. And actually, I had something a little bit different planned for the show.
You
it had
always
to do
do.
with healthcare. And this one is this article you can get through Common Dreams, and the fellow's name is Wen Stevenson. And Wen Stevenson is a climate activist, a former editor at The Atlantic and the Globe and Mail, contributes frequently to the Grist, and has written about climate and culture for the Globe and the New York Times and the Nation and Slate. So this guy's all over the map, but he's an excellent journalist, and he writes about basically climate change. And this particular article, if you are a little cynical about Earth Day, this is a great one to read, because this guy is really cynical. I can't say this on air, but he says F Earth Day. I don't think if I did, they come to get you, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'll just say
come to
F
get
Earth
you.
Day.
Okay.
And really, you know, I'm just going to read a little bit out of this article. He says, end the dishonesty, the deception. Stop lying to yourselves and to your children. Stop pretending that the crisis can be solved, that the planet can be saved, that business more or less as usual, what progressives and environmentalists have been doing for 40 odd years and more, is morally or intellectually tenable. Let go of the pretense that environmentalism as we know it, virtuous green consumerism, affluent low carbon localism, head in the sand conservatism, feel good greenwash capitalism comes anywhere near the radical response our situation requires. So what he's basically saying here is that there's a lot of people that go out there, and the raw people that we can do it, all we got to do is this. We can convince these guys that it's the wrong thing to do. We can do it. What he's saying is that it's past due. It ain't working. And David Suzuki said the same thing in last year in Maclean's magazine. David Suzuki stated environmentalism has failed.
That's right.
This guy here is saying exactly the same thing. He says, I'm just going to continue on here, because he says, I'm sorry, this is not a test. This is really happening. He underlines that. If we're to believe the scientists, okay, the science that's coming at us, then this guy's right. We have to get on our horses and ride with this one, because if we don't, well, it might be game over anyways.
Yeah,
Probably
I
is.
think it's even if we do at this point in time, many disasters wait in the
They've already
near
happened.
future, and they've already happened.
They've
That's
already
right.
happened.
So
They're only going to get worse.
They're only going to get worse.
This guy goes on and says, the Arctic and the glaciers are melting. The great forests are dying and burning. The oceans are rising and acidifying. The storms, the floods, the droughts and heat waves are intensifying. That's what we're saying. And they're going to just keep on intensifying. The bread baskets are parched and drying, and all of it faster and sooner than the scientists predicted. And that's true, because I've read enough reports that where the scientists are just totally taken aback by the quickness of everything. They didn't, they thought it would be a couple of decades. It's not. It's like right now. The window in which to act is closing before our eyes. Now, this is not a rah-rah article. This is a gloom and doom. But at the same time, at the very end of it, he comes out fighting. He said that what we need is and it requires us to be honest with each other and with ourselves about the situation we face. We'll never have a movement radical enough or humane enough until we are. So what we need to do is to be completely honest with ourselves and say that D-Day is upon us. There's nothing like our backs to the wall. We have to go out and fight. And however we fight is however we fight, but we have to win the fight. Now, he goes on to describe the forms of denial, fatalism. And then he says, so I ask again, in the face of this situation, how does one respond? Now, that comes to our part, the Act 2 of this. There is a response to this. There is a response. And it's a very clear-cut response. What he's referring to is North American response to climate change, which has been dismal. We're not going forward, we're going backward. So, what is this? He goes on to say, we know that if the governments of the world actually wanted to address this situation in a serious way, they could. And that's true. We have the power. We do. We have the talent and we have the power.
Well, we could certainly do a lot better than what we're doing.
We could move ahead. And as he says here, he says, indeed, a select few, such as Germany, have actually begun to do so. And when he says that, Scandinavian countries are also right up there too. They're moving ahead. Germany will be on a carbon-free future. They're on a carbon-free future, but they're going to actually get to their goal by about 2050, which is phenomenal, you know. So anyways.
Unfortunately, they live on the same planet as we do, and we're pumping it out as fast as we possibly can.
And so it must
North
be,
America,
must be
Asia.
frustrating,
Yeah.
Unbelievably frustrating. So the thing is that why is it that the Scandinavian countries and Germany are doing so well and North America isn't? There's a real simple answer to it, and that's our electoral system. Why the electoral system? Because our electoral system here in North America is a first past the post electoral system. And if you look back at the system that we have back in English history, you'll find no doubt about it that it was created bit by bit to protect the wealthy and the monarchy. That's England. So the whole system is geared to protect wealth. The whole idea of giving powers to the commons, you know, if you read about that in English history, the commons, yeah, but you know what? The commons was represented by landowners. You had to be a landowner in order to get the right to vote. So consequently, only 3% of that population was actually voting. It's very low.
I think it's completely true that our voting system is a big part of the problem, all the problems that we have in Canada and in the United States, which is basically the same voting system. You favor proportional representation voting, similar to what they have in Germany, and so do I, because our voting system is so flawed in so many ways. The job of a voting system is to translate the way we vote into seats in our legislatures. And the first past the post system that we use in all of our elections doesn't do that. It, for example, in just you mentioned this. It's the perfect example. In the last federal election, the Conservatives got about 2.8 million votes.
5 point, actually,
Yeah.
it was
Let's say close to
5.9
six.
or something
yes,
like
let's say
that,
close to 6 million
That's right.
votes. The
You got it.
Conservatives got close to 6 million votes. The Greens got about 600,000
That's
votes.
right.
The Conservatives got 10 times the vote, but
Not
got
even
100.
that, nine and a half.
Okay, but got I think 160 seats to 1.
166.
So it happens in every election. I'll go back to an election in the year 2000. It's just a classic example, but it happens in all of the provinces all of the time in a federal election and in the provincial elections too. The Liberals in the 2000 election, federal election, in the province of Ontario got about 53% of the vote. And with that, they won 100 of 103 seats. The other parties split, I think, 47% of the votes, the other big parties, and got 3 seats.
Oh, that's criminal.
The system does not work. We need a national discussion and debate to show Canadians the problems we face with our system, and the benefits that come to countries that like Canada but have a proportional voting system, because it allows freshness and new life into this completely ossified system that we have here.
Corrupt.
And corrupt.
You know, and I agree with you, Jack. I think that, to me, it's extremely simple. With proportional representation, you're reflecting the people's viewpoint. With first past the post, you're reflecting the Prime Minister's viewpoint. And if you have a Prime Minister like Stephen Harper, who is anti-climate, and who's actually going out of his way to tank these conferences that are going on, these climate conferences, then there's nothing you can do about it. Legally, there's nothing you can do.
In a proportional voting system, Stephen Harper would very likely not be the Prime Minister of Canada.
He wouldn't be able to exist.
No. Or so, at least I hope.
No,
I
he
mean,
wouldn't. No.
maybe the other parties are so bad that we'd still end up with him, but
Then you see, you have like there are certain instances where you have a country that has proportional representation, and it's a mess.
But as you say, the Northern European countries and Germany, we can see all the benefits that come, better social programs.
Everything. Everything.
You know, I mean, we can do better, and I think we would do better if we had a different voting system. Our governments would be more democratic because they'd be more representative of us. And what can be more important than that?
Well, just think of the things that wouldn't happen, okay? 78% of people, over 80% of the people in Canada don't support the seal hunt. That's gone. Huge percentage of people in Canada didn't want to sell the asbestos to the third world from Quebec. That would have never happened. The majority of Canadians want something to be done about climate change. There would be Canadians at the table in these conferences that are very actively positive about solutions that have to be done. We've got the talent. There's no doubt about it. You know it, and I know it from the people that we've met and interviewed. We have the talent out there. But these guys, you know, it's like hitting a stone wall. they get stonewalled every time they try to do something.
Our
That's
governments are so completely corrupt, and a
Yeah.
big part of the reason they're so corrupt is our first past the
and
post
that's what leads to
voting
this.
system.
That is exactly what leads to this article. And you know what? He didn't get it. He doesn't see it.
You
It's
mean
too bad.
He doesn't see this particular solution.
No, he doesn't see. He doesn't see the electoral changes.
Yeah, but people don't, because it's never mentioned. It's never
I
discussed.
know.
We really
I know.
need. I mean,
Well-
it's such a shortage in Canada of just informed debate about important issues, because we just don't. We deserve better.
Oh, yeah.
We deserve better.
We do. We can do better. We can do great. Like Canadians are. I mean, we have, as you know, like we have like really a bouquet of humanity in this country. You know what I mean? And we have people that are passionate about freedom. They're passionate about their daily lives and where they live. And there's no reason in the world why we should be way ahead, way ahead, but we're not. And so I guess with only a couple of minutes to go, this guy, Wen Stevenson it is, Common Dreams, and this was in The Nation, and it's called F Earth Day. Let this year's be the last. It's the wrong outlook, because the thing is that Earth Day in Germany is celebrated because they're moving ahead. Earth Day in Denmark is a huge day. I remember asking somebody when I was in Denmark, in Copenhagen, I said, well, how do you celebrate Earth Day? Oh, we have festivals, and like every year we get better. And I thought, that ain't working.
You mean it's not working here? We're not getting better. Yeah, we're getting
And this
worse.
is what happens here
Yeah.
in North America.
Rick, we're out of time.
We
so,
are.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, John.
Proportional representation voting system is, I think, a big part of the solution. We know the problems. Our politicians don't care about us. The corporations own the media, and the corporations are too powerful. We have to break them down to our size. Thanks for watching Citizens Forum.